Hello and welcome to Kinboshi Radio, this week sponsored by Super Rooster of Toowoomba, the tastiest two-legged treat in town. Remember, no Rikishi would be caught dead on all fours, so why eat some loser animal like a cow who spends all days in the stance of a loser? No, not you, fair listener. You trust only the best barbecue rotisserie chickens, and that is found only at Super Rooster of Toowoomba. And let me tell you, as a native of Colonel Sanders' own Kentucky, I know a tasty chicken when I see one. Get yours today. But also, this is Rick from the future, and I screwed up the intro, so you get this now. But we're talking Amateur Sumo today. We got the guys from Sunday Morning Sumo Show, Goose and JJ, so I hope you love it, because I had a fun time talking to them. So, enjoy! Today, I wanted to bring you guys on because I wanted to talk about amateur sumo. And so, like, how people can get involved in sumo in their own communities, but just, like, why that's cool, because I assure you it is. But to start with that, I kind of wanted to say, like, how did you guys get started in your sumo journey? So, like, for me, in 2009, I did a little, like, study abroad thing way up in the boonies in Akita-ken in Japan. And when I first landed, my Japanese was so bad that I could not successfully navigate my way from Narita Airport to my hotel just for the night before when I was going to ride. So I did what everyone tells you not to do in Japan, and I got a cab, and it was incredibly expensive. But what was hilarious to me is the old dude in the car, the whole time he's driving me around, he had like a tiny little CRT TV in his car, and he's watching sumo, and it was actually an Asashoryu match. And so I was immediately enamored. What about you, Goose? Just for like context, we're global today. Goose, you are an Australian.
Oh my God, I never knew.
Yeah. Also, I'm doxing you. How?
I mean, we're the size of Canada. If you can figure out where I am off just Australia, good luck.
That's fair. Yeah.
How did I get into sumo? Like, everyone has such a cool story except for me.
Oh.
I just like martial arts. I just go to dojos and train. When I was doing judo, people were talking about sumo, and I was like, oh yeah, like I always knew about sumo. Everyone's seeing like the big fat suits that people jump around in.
Of course.
And eventually, like there's no real moment, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I started picking it up. I started finding shows when I actually got interested in it.
Yeah.
It took someone telling me what a basho was for me to figure out what sumo could be watched.
Yeah.
Not that it's like just something over there. And then I found this one show called Chanko where I started trying to entertain them and eventually got to jump on them. And that, how do I put it? Some shit happened, and then I was the host of Sunday Morning Sumo Show and been doing that for a while. JJ found his way along there. Eventually, I realized if I want to be able to do this show better, I need to actually understand what the hell I'm talking about. And that successfully worked because I now have people like you saying, you know what you're talking about. And I don't. A bronze is the best I've ever got out of a 17-man tournament, okay?
No.
So
listen. No. Hold on. Reverse that. I'm going to edit all this out because what we have on the line with us is the bronze medal winner of the Australian Open Sumo. This is sumo royalty.
JJ, how about you?
Oh, Goose, it's funny to see you being modest. I have a pretty boring story too. I came across an article about Tokushoryu and how he won the tournament from the 17th rung. Got super interested. I mean, it piqued a lot of things. Like, okay, there's the bottom of a ranking system, and it was crazy that this guy won. Why is that crazy? So I looked into it. Found out that there was a tournament going on pretty soon. Figured out how I could watch it just by Googling how to check out live sumo. And it was July 2021, Hakuho's last tournament.
Ooh.
Which, as far as tournaments to get into in this like modern time of sumo, is a pretty stellar tournament for your first tournament.
Oh my gosh, dude. Also, two of the greatest day 15s in modern sumo history, right? Like one of the few things that NHK in their copyright-stricken fever dream has not struck from YouTube is that final day of Tokushoryu. Everybody go watch that. Oh man, like I'm not saying it's like fun to watch a grown man cry, but that's a beautiful cry right there. That's a good one. And then just the day 15 Hakuho Teru no Fuji, the slap heard around the world in that fight.
Yeah.
I'll back you up on that. The other two beautiful day 15s was like the first two tournaments I really sat down to watch all 15 days of was Mitake Ume having to beat the Yokozuna on the final day to make the Ozeki promotion.
Oh, true.
And then
Very
the very next Basho, Wakatake Kage debuts at Sekewake and has to beat former Ozeki Takayasu to do it. I get like
twice.
back-to-back Cinderella stories, and it's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the sport, man.
And like that's the thing. So JJ even mentioned it too, like this idea of like, wait, there's rungs, there's tiers, like that's awesome. That's why like, you know, insufferable Americans are so fascinated with the Premier League and stuff like that, is this idea of promotion, relegation. Wait, you can, if you're not good enough, you can lose your spot. Cause at least I say this as an American or whatever, like our sports are insufferable. The idea that it's pay to play, right? Like you just buy a franchise and there you go. And, you know, JJ, we ruined your national sport with the NHL. So, you know, you're welcome.
You know what? That's fine. My family is a curling family anyway.
Back to my childhood. I grew up in North Dakota. We had a local curling club. It's a great time. That's way better to
It's so fun. Curling is great.
sitting around drinking beers and curling is so much better than bowling, even though they're more or less the same thing.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. But so sumo's awesome. We all already know that. I'll pivot us off of that. But where does that change then from both of you guys uncovering this truth that already existed, that sumo is fantastic? I know, Goose, I'll start with you because you already mentioned it a little bit, this idea of wanting to compete because that would help you understand what you're doing, or because now you are an expert in our volatile world of English language sumo coverage. Is that pretty much all it was? Then you just like sought out a club, or did you have to start your own?
Well, I'm also a martial artist on top of that.
Oh yeah, I meant to go back to that. Where'd you start? What martial arts did you start in before sumo came into the picture?
I started with Taekwondo, as embarrassing as that is.
What's that embarrassing? You got the feet of fury.
Taekwondo sucks, dude.
Okay.
We don't have to get into that now. But
that's a different show.
I started Taekwondo, and then went to Muay Thai, and then went to boxing, and then I've jumped around and done just about everything.
Yeah.
I love just jumping into some random gym, and I know enough now to know whether or not it's a good dojo or not to actually practice. And just, I enjoy that like mental puzzle of trying to work on technique and trying to apply it and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so I knew that it's like, all right, I'm watching sumo, this is great. But if I do sumo, that's where I really started to figure out. And it has actually. It's helped my commentary a lot because I really understand why things work, and I can help coach people and things like that now.
Right. And then
the club, however, was fantastic because there was a bit of a lull after the big kahuna virus, but it picked back up again and started to. So there's this judo coach that we have, who runs a judo school, and he is obsessed with sumo as well. He's been to Japan to compete. He got 5th at the international amateur tournament coming up on September 7th, actually. That's pretty close. Yeah. And he's actually a grappling expert, and he's been fantastic to learn from. There's been a few other guys who've done quite well. One of the guys I trained with, Joel, just got silver in men's lightweight in the Scottish Sumo Open, which is the biggest tournament in Europe, as of 3 weeks ago, I think. So I am very fortunate that it's a very healthy dojo with some talent that I've learned from. It's really helped me level up my skills.
Right, and obviously, like, just do you think, has proximity helped? Is there more interest in martial arts in general in Australia because of proximity to country? You mentioned Muay Thai, right? Like, you're right by Thailand. You mentioned Taekwondo, obviously South Korea, Japan, and sumo and judo. These things are there. Do you notice, is there a lot of different martial arts represented there? I know in America, we basically have the Karate Kid, and then everybody's got a karate dojo in town, but...
Well, like, part of that is, like, Australian culture is kind of downstream from American, because you just, like, produce all the movies and stuff like that.
Oh, we overpower by shouting, much like me right now.
Yeah. But, just to like scale back the picture a little bit, something I absolutely love about Australia is that we're just absolutely obsessed with sport. Not like one sport, just the entire concept of it. To the point where we got 4th in the Olympics out of every country that showed up, despite being a country with 20 million people. Like, we were getting golds in random things everywhere, competing against the absolute titans that are China and America as far as like population and funding for athletes.
Yes.
And the anti-doping Chinese weightlifting, but we don't have to get into that. So with the fact that we're actually able to, no, I'll just straight up say it, compete against people who are cheating and get close is why there's like so many martial arts in Australia, like so many talented people to learn from. People have gone on to be champions and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is why I can find a judo master who is also a sumo expert. So yeah, the sumo scene is very healthy in Australia. There's Caleb, who is this 140 ogre from the mountains in Lithgow that we taught to do sumo. He is a massive weeaboo that became obsessed with it. He's also a silver medalist powerlifter, I believe. So he's like scary strong.
Yeah.
And he's our best guy that we have, and he's obsessed with it to the point that he's built his own club in Sydney, not leeching, that's a harsh word, taking from the other people, the older generation that did sumo before the unexplained lull in activity.
Yeah.
And
right.
He's built his Sydney team, and they were pretty competitive at Nationals. Between Brisbane and Sydney, yeah, there's a pretty good scene in sumo that's starting to grow.
Yeah.
JJ.
Yeah, JJ, give it to us. So
how's the sumo scene in Edmonton?
Well, okay, Goose. Edmonton is, it's quite small. In Canada, it's quite small. Kind of like Goose said earlier with Australia, we're very much downwind America's culture stream. But in certain areas, it is very delayed. Sumo is one of those areas where we're just like 5-10 years behind America in terms of development. So we're starting to see the birth of a lot of clubs. We have all over the country. We've got we have a club in Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, and then Edmonton. And as far as I'm aware, that's basically it.
Can I interject for so those absolute hosers down in Calgary got nothing?
Not yet.
I assume we hate them, right? The inferior Albertans.
I mean, yeah, that's just the natural order of things, of course. But no, there are a lot of great spots in Alberta for grappling. Wrestling is big, but jiu-jitsu and judo are also quite big here. So like Goose was saying, you go to a judo club, there's high possibility that there's at least somebody in there that's, if not aware of sumo, is hype about sumo.
And technique-wise, like both of you guys have now mentioned judo.
Judo is like the main thing because a lot of this is the most applicable from any other martial art because sumo is so foreign to everything else.
Yeah.
Like a specific bit of a cloth that you have to wear, a specific style. Ippon is really interesting, which is the Japanese style of 1 point.
Yeah.
Karate kumite is you get that one clean hit and then you reset because it's all about landing that 1 point. Similar to sumo, you make them touch the ground once. That's it. That's the match. It's very much of a unique style that doesn't really exist anywhere else. Like boxing is your 12 rounds and knockout decides it, or getting to the 12 rounds and points decides it. So judo is also ippon. You throw them to the ground, you get your point. That's it. That's why you'll find a lot of judo guys are also sumo guys. I think a lot. That's a complete lie. But there's crossover.
Well,
that's why we get guys like Hosharyu.
Yeah, Tochinoshin, right? Tochinoshin practiced judo,
right.
and so just like to touch on that, like both of you guys talking about having some experience or familiarity with the idea of those clubs. Like the reason judo carries over is it helps someone with like mawashi fighting. Is that right? Because it's about grips, holds, and counterweight and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you? It's belt throws, like gripping the pants to go for shitanage, watanage type stuff. It's all very similar.
Yeah. Even though like
the other one though, and this is a very obscure sport, Bok. Mongolian wrestling.
Nick and I talk about that all the time. And when like this Mongolian dominance, but if you ever watch two dudes fighting Mongolian Bok or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah. It's another bit of cloth, except it's around the shoulders that you have to hold on to. It's it's very ippon style again, where you throw them down, and then for some reason you have to run away after you've thrown them down. I see them do that a lot, but I don't know why.
Yeah,
I've not looked into it.
You know what's interesting is I can't remember the name of it. Senegalese wrestling. Have you guys ever watched that stuff?
No,
dude. Okay,
sounds familiar. It's mud wrestling type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they do sand pits. But it's huge, but it's only on the west coast of Africa, pretty much. Like they might do it also in like Cameroon and Ghana and maybe Nigeria, but like it's Senegalese. at the place I work at, there's a Senegalese dude who comes in all the time, and sometimes when it's slow, we'll sit there and just watch this stuff because he has access to these streams from back home.
Awesome.
But when you mentioned the Ippon style, that was fascinating to me because that's immediately what I thought of, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if that could be a new generation. It'd be tough because like Japan in general has some issues with xenophobia, is what I'll say. So I think it might be hard to get Senegalese wrestlers over there. I don't know, but
Potentially. The beautiful thing about the Banzuke, though, is that it is merit, if
Yes.
nothing else.
right.
You can't deny a 10-5 climbing up the Banzuke.
Totally true. They can't actually stop someone. What they can do is the JSA passes rules limiting, I believe still currently we have the rules in place where there can only be one foreigner per heya, which seems tough to me because I think one of the reasons like Aoyama and Tochinoshin like went up together. And even though one's from Bulgaria, one's from Georgia, I've got to imagine that helped them like stabilizing their life outside of their heya.
That was because of a stable merger, though.
Oh,
so that
you're
got
right.
around the rules.
They were recruited by different steel wrestlers. Okay.
The owner, I forget his name, retired and then merged into another stable, and so everyone got to train together. That's how they got around that.
That's fair enough, yeah. And I've even heard some arguments from some folks that like they actually think it's better if you don't have a country mate in your stable because the idea then is that you are encouraged to assimilate and will therefore be able to better learn. So I don't know, a little of this, a little of that. But from the point of like making that pivot or things like that, Goose, you actually practiced judo before. JJ, did you as well, or were there just clubs in Edmonton that you were familiar with?
No, I mean there was certainly MMA's influence up here has spawned a whole generation of, people around my generation who are very excited about all things martial art. So,
Whole generation of people around my generation.
yeah, I
What a
know.
folly.
No, it tracks. Yeah.
Whatever. Around my age, growing up watching not the early days of MMA, but whatever. No, so like there was always like a healthy culture of martial arts up and around the major cities of Alberta, at least. Like, so like I certainly knew they were around, but there was nothing in terms of sumo in Edmonton at all.
And so we'll pivot back to Australian Goose too, but like JJ, so for you in that case, like, did you create like the first organized like sumo, at least even like practicing organizations in your community? Because I know you say it's small and that's fair enough, but like Edmonton's a city of 1 million people. Like that's a large community.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's when I say small, relatively speaking, and of course I'm talking sumo specifically, like the sumo culture in Edmonton is quite small. Like there is actually like a healthy, thriving sumo culture in Vancouver. There was a lot of Japanese migration over there.
Makes sense.
In the past. So it's not a foreign sport in Vancouver as much as it is here.
Yeah.
I didn't really create the first organized group to train with, I would say, just because it wasn't organized at all.
It was just like guys on a message board like we'll Tachi I for free.
Not even that. It was me bringing my rope dohyo around to my friend's place and being like, hey, wanna wrestle?
Dude, this is my childhood. This is like backyard wrestling where we were like, hey, I found 2 old mattresses on the side of the street. Do you guys want to suplex each other?
Want to take a brain buster real quick?
But no, my experience with amateur sumo is quite out of whack because I actually went to a tournament before I actually had any training.
Yes.
So, Rollertown Showdown, I had gotten my Mawashi like the week before. So like I had done some like beltless stuff, but in terms of like sumo specific organized stuff, I'm nothing. I had some faux wrestling with my friends, and I had done like the solo drills that you can do on your own.
Okay. Like you were doing
and then-
Shiko.
Yeah, and Suriyashi, the sliding
Yes.
exercise,
punching a tree.
Teppo.
Yeah.
I have a setup in my garage that's I can use to it's a heavy bag on a chain that slides, so I can practice Itachi-ai, but I haven't.
Instead of like actually doing shoulder lending, you've got
yeah. But that's the thing. Now that I do train with somebody after the tournament and after the U.S. Open this year. I met up with a guy in Edmonton who had also done the exact same thing I did, which is get a belt, join a tournament the week after, go and compete in America.
The land of promise.
Yeah. So it's just funny to me that two guys independently had the same idea of I'm going to join a sumo tournament.
Yeah.
And then meet up afterwards, which is when the organization started to come in.
And that was Texas was your first tournament, is that right?
Yeah, my first tournament was Texas. His the week after, I think like a week or 2 weeks later, was in California.
And that was the U.S. Open.
Yes.
Yeah. And the U.S. Open changes, right? Like 2 years ago, wasn't it in St. Louis or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not so sure. I don't really follow. That particular one.
Right. Gotcha. So like, because over here, like, as far as I understand, that scene is very scattered. So now, like, but is your club like you and one other guy, or were you guys able to build out from there?
So we are currently building. I actually just had a presentation I did at an anime convention in Edmonton about sumo, and part of it was plugging the club.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is
It's your club.
Yeah, say the
I'm
name.
getting there. We are working through the University of Alberta in Edmonton, and we are putting together a club through them.
Yeah.
Which is, we can't call it anything other than Sumo Class at the U of A. But it's exactly what it says on the tin. We're doing a sumo class at the University of Alberta in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Registration opens in 2 days. We're recording on the 17th, so that's August 19th. And it's $11. And it's open. We're renting out a room in there. And we're doing sumo. We've got myself and Tim, who's the guy who competed in California. And then in addition, we have another gentleman, smaller guy, as well as two people who I met at the presentation who are interested in joining. So we're slowly growing the scene.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really was, we just show up at the park and wrestle.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But also, like, I love hearing that idea of like speaking at an anime expo. Like, I mean, we can make fun of it too, but like, I mean, dude, I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. I watched it like the idea that pivot from like, hey, Japanese pop culture is kind of cool. Like, that seems like the way that you would go.
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of love that though, because even if you get people to do it for a little bit, like as like an extracurricular intramural or something, like that still is an entry point that can, who knows where that grows, or maybe those are kids from elsewhere across Canada. Like you get some Saskatoons in there or something.
Exactly. And I mean, just with the convention, I actually got that idea from Corey and Ziggy from this Dallas Sumo Club. They do demonstrations all the time.
And they're, as far as I know, they're pretty huge. At least from America, their name comes up all the time. The Dallas Sumo Club.
They're one of the biggest, not necessarily the oldest or the biggest, but they're certainly, I mean, punching well above their weight in terms of outreach for sure.
Yeah, Dallas Sumo Club and Clan Sumo in Scotland are probably the two most important institutions in amateur sumo right now. The absolute effort Corey and Siggy have been putting in to like actually promote it and get the word out there and bring people in.
Yeah.
Like the idea of doing demonstrations and stuff like that. He was the first like really dive into that, those two.
Yeah.
He's like actually like just putting sumo in front of people, which is what a lot of people don't get the opportunity to.
Right.
Because like with me, I was like, sumo had always been there, but I just didn't know where to look for it. And now that I actually find it, I know what to look for. I go on that. And that's the same thing. You go to an anime expo, you see, oh, these dudes are just doing sumo. Cool.
Yeah.
He goes to athletics. What was the Cowboy Cup in last time? The athletics tournament, the strongman thing. It was just some fitness expo, really. And it's like, hey, can we just have our little thing in the corner? Yeah, sweet. People came along to watch. And that's got club members in.
I love that because that's even like the first. So I got my wife into watching sumo with me like during the pandemic because, or I'm sorry, the what are we calling it, the big Kahuna, but like just you're sitting around or whatever, and then you can get the NHK World streams and see that something easy and accessible. But like the first thing, and so from there that was my wife, and then some of our friends, and then like spilling out from there. But the first thing everyone says is they're like, wait, I thought it was just like fat guys. And then they see Ishiura for the first time, the fit fat snack, like, and they're like, what's going on here? What's this guy doing here?
I just kind of accept that bullet where it's like, I thought it was just fat guys. Yeah. But
have you watched them bench?
Yeah. No, for real.
Yeah.
It's 100% that. That's the way that I go at it now too. Is just, yeah, but so are strongmen.
Right.
Have you seen what they do?
Yeah. Right. We all saw back in the day, Zadrunas Zavicus, right? Like just like lifting big chalk covered rocks and dragging a semi. But you have a disdain for this or a fondness for this, Goose?
Fondness for big dudes carrying shit bigger than them is one of the coolest things ever.
I agree, and it's so simple. Like I like to get on high horses, but like when the Olympics was happening, I always get annoyed. I'm like, why? What is all this? What are we? All these apparati and things. Like, no. I just want sports that are just like, what can you do just like with a rock, a stick, and your body? That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Well, look, my entire life is basically defined by that one scene from Conan the Barbarian that no one remembers, where he's carrying a hay bale 3 times the size of him. Okay?
So
no one else remembers that scene except me. It is the most important media I've ever seen.
more important.
Big dudes doing big shit.
More important than him pushing the wheel when all the other slave boys die and it is only he.
For some reason, the hay was more important.
Okay, it's more country strong. I like that. In Australia, when you talked about your judo master, did he already have a sumo club, Goose, for you, or is that something that came later and you were practicing judo with him and the sumo came later?
They did. It was popular for a while. Died down in 2020 because of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've been slowly building it back up to about where it was before.
Cool.
That happened to a lot of grappling schools around that time, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a time to be chest to chest sweating and huffing on another person.
But yeah, so we've built it to about where we were before. Things looking healthy. I'm doing my part in like spreading the word of sumo with the show, Sunday Morning Sumo Show to be specific. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We cover all 15 days of the bar show.
Please do. If you're watching on YouTube, there is assuredly a picture of the channel here, hopefully with the Discord link. Come on down.
So yeah, like the reason why I'm doing the show, 1, it's fun. 2, I'm trying to get the word out about sumo, and this is kind of my own little way. And one of the things I really encourage is people like, oh man, I'd love to do sumo. One of the people who forgot to mention that was JJ, who spoke to me about how there's no club in his area. And I said, think about all the other people who are thinking there's no club in the area.
Yeah.
Be the club. I encourage other people to get along. I brought people to the Brisbane practice as well. I take a bit of inspiration from Corey as well, where it's like you just have to spread the word and just get it out, man.
Right.
That's
the coolest shit. Look at it.
I actually wanted to bring up Corey one more time really quickly. One of the main reasons why the Dallas Sumo Club is getting so much, like I said, punching above their weight in terms of outreach is he's a professional videographer.
There you go. Yeah.
And he insisted on streaming like pretty much everything that he did. And I mean, you can go and look at their YouTube channel right now, the Dallas Sumo Club.
Mm-hmm.
They stream pretty much every Sunday practice that they do. They stream other practices too when they do them. But yeah.
And that's become a trend too. Like a lot of other people are doing that now.
Everybody wants to be a content creator. Everybody wants to be famous, like whatever. Like I'm a dweeb with a YouTube channel, like,
Well, it's great. I mean, yeah, the wanting to be the content creator thing is part of it for sure, but also it's great just to show people that, you know, a lot of these clubs are going to have like their area attached to the name.
Yeah.
So it's always super easy to just go Sumo Dallas, you know? And if you find something that's near you, and I'm talking like within a couple of neighborhoods of you, it's very hard then to like have a reason not to go.
Yeah. I can put like the list, but like if you're ever on Sumo Reddit, which is the first place that I discovered Dallas, because whether it's them or their fans, viewers, and acolytes, like they have a presence on the subreddit, and their stuff is it's so interesting. Like 75% of the posts on the Sumo Reddit are, hey, just got into the sport. What's promotion and relegation? Hey, just got into the sport. How can I learn how to do this? Hey, I just got into the sport. So to Goose's point, like about JJ, like there's so much interest around this. And I think anyone who gets exposed to sumo almost invariably is like instantly fascinated. Whether that fascination holds on, who knows? But that's where like the Dallas guys, like their content, rather than like, it's like 75% posts of people like asking questions, and then the Dallas guys like answering the questions.
Yeah. But yeah, I also wanted to point out like the fact that so many amateur clubs are getting footage out there just in general is fantastic for all of the other amateurs who are already practicing. Because you're getting I mean, from a competitive angle, you're getting wonderful footage of people that you're going to be competing against. You're seeing how they practice, how they train, what their strengths are and their weaknesses. It's an absolute gold mine.
Like even what a facility looks like. Like JJ, you talked about how you were kind of learning on the fly, building this. What your description actually reminded me. I don't know. Did you guys watch like the original Sasuke before it became the American Ninja Warrior or whatever? But like, and you would see some of those dudes who were just like a firefighter, and they would open their garage in like like rural Chugoku prefecture or something, and they're like, so I've rebuilt the entire castle. Like it's that kind of stuff. Like being able to see that you can do it also matters.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And then beyond that, like club to club, it's fascinating to hear like what matters for starting clubs in your areas. Oh, and one other thing I was like, you can go on Sumo Reddit and they have an entire index. Now this is only good if you're in the States, I guess, but like they have an index of like all 50 states, and does your state have a sumo club? Where is it? Like even mine, I just like pulled it up as we were going, and there's Sumo Ohio, Georgetown. Georgetown, Kentucky is like, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes for me, something like that. So I'm like, cool, I could go make a fool of myself and do this, and that would probably be helpful. I should probably do that sometime. But yeah, so like you're saying, it's out there. But then in addition to like making this available, what interconnectivity is there between clubs? Is it just like tournament time, you guys get together and then you can kind of cross-pollinate ideas? Or
I mean,
in America, there's a lot
more.
they're very much interested in becoming like an international community. People talk a lot. Some of them have a show as well. Everyone's filming everything, so you always got to check in on the other club's training.
Yeah.
Tournaments are like the Roller Town Derby are just a massive event because it's like people from all over are coming down to hang out with their sumo friends again and compete. And there's a healthy rivalry with everyone as well, trying to be the best.
Yeah.
Hayden Southall and Edobo Konyeha are currently like the two guys fighting for the number one spot. Edobo recently moved to Texas and is now in the Dallas club. So that's been interesting.
That's why he's training with them so much? Oh, I didn't know that.
What is this? Tell me, for the amateur viewer of Amateur Sumo, is this like them pilfering the star of another club?
No, his girlfriend lives in Dallas.
Nah, that'll do it.
So he moved to Dallas.
Yeah, fair.
It's
So
he is 21 anyway.
Yeah.
I had something, but
You got this. I believe in you.
Don't let your dreams
Don't
be
give
dreams.
up. JJ, stop panicking.
You know when you in the dreams when you
Hey, it's my 5-year-old nephew, the only person I've practiced sumo against. He's on the show.
Hey, sumo wrestling. Speaking of Roller Town Derby, you can find us competing in there, actually. JJ and I both went down. It was the first time we met up.
Yeah.
Considering how far away we live, and that was a good time.
And that's what was fascinating to me.
Amateur sumo tournaments are a good time.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say, is that anybody I found that basically anybody in the sumo community is cool enough that if you reach out to them and be like, hey, do you want to talk about sumo? They're going to say, yeah, I want to talk about sumo. That goes doubly so for the people that are involved with amateur sumo.
Yeah.
And if you are yourself involved with amateur sumo, you say, hey, I'm an amateur sumo from whatever, Canada.
Yeah.
And I've got people from Sri Lanka messaging. The people that do this are so happy and kind and just are thrilled to reach out when they see an opportunity to reach out.
Yeah, amateur sumo is small enough. Not amateur, like international sumo, non-Japanese sumo fans. There we go.
Right.
Is small enough that like if you like it and they like it, instant connection.
Yeah. Now they like you.
Because the way I get every single guest on my show is I go, hey, Kinboshi, you want to come on and talk sumo? And you know what he said? Yes. That was it. And then we had him on. It's happened every single time.
And
that happened with Jason Sumo, the number one guy.
The OG.
I was like, hey, man. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's even maybe slightly different because, again, like, that's what was fascinating to me is coming on the show, and you guys were super generous, and it was such a good time. And, like, immediately, like, you were like, yeah, call a few of these matches. And I'm just like, the Emperor has no clothes. I see how this is. I don't want to, yeah. Because that's the thing, like, I'm curious.
I'm going to be honest, I do that for my own sadistic pleasure. I'm doing you one, we have a good time, we welcome in a few matches. Your turn.
No.
What? Yeah. Go.
I don't know what it says about me, but that makes it better. Like, I'm like, no, I appreciate it more that he's like, oh. I just imagine you, Mr. Burns, cackling with your finger palming. But like, so going through that, like, can you guys even like comment on when you started practicing sumo yourself? So I mean, Goose, you already had an extensive martial arts and just combat sports background. So obviously that can be helpful because like something that's fascinating to me is actually that you mentioned boxing and Muay Thai, because I've heard from MMA mixed martial arts guys where they're like, yeah, no one does those techniques in MMA because the stances like just invite takedowns and you're just never going to be able to stand up. People are just going to take you to ground and wail on you, things like that. Did you find like that was helpful when you came to sumo, or are there things, commentary that you're able to make on a match with that more extensive background and relating it to sumo?
Not at all, Rick. Nothing that I had learned had transferred to sumo.
This is fascinating. Give it to me. Why?
I'd done like 6 months of judo like 10 years ago.
Fair.
And
Gotcha.
didn't know anything to transfer it. The one move that I still practice from that time, the tomoe nage, where you grab them by the shoulders, put your foot on their hip, and then roll onto your back and flip them over your head.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work in sumo.
Shocker. Not a good strategy.
The slight wrestling that I'd done with like the leg shoots for takedowns, where you put your knee on the ground, none of that mattered. I was completely out of order getting into sumo.
Yeah.
I had my strength to rely on. That was it. And even then, that would backfire on me because I would push really hard into someone without any like proper grip or any like proper footwork to be doing that. No, even worse, in my Muay Thai footwork where I'm light with heavy on one leg and pretty much upright, because that's the kind of stance I'm comfortable with, and just, here's the floor, sir. Thank you. Like, sweet, I got dumped frequently. So, like, I'm training karate 4 days a week, and then I go to a Muay Thai gym for sparring on Fridays. And the problem I'm having there is that, like, they're both kickboxing. So they're both very similar, and I'll pick up habits here that don't transfer here.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing things here that don't work to the karate there. Yeah. And then with sumo, it was completely different. And that was a blessing in that, where it's like, it's just sumo. I don't have to worry about anything else.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. As opposed to, things where you're building off of those previous skills that are completely non-applicable. Because I actually think about, Hanada, I think is his name, but there's a dude who was a college sumo player that now is in America at Colorado State trying to be an offensive lineman. And other guys before him have tried that. But the biggest problem for them going to American football is this idea that, like, oh no, can never grip with your hands and can never pull. That's a penalty. And moving backwards, like, you're supposed to move backwards, like, as an offensive lineman. So these things, but like you're saying, the lack of similarities could even be helpful.
Because it's so isolated.
Right.
It's like something that everyone who comes to Australia has to endure at some point is we will take you to the cricket cages and make you bowl a ball.
No, don't
Like
do it.
the actual bowling action. That is so removed from any other sports skill you've ever learned. So it's a very specific thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
So sumo is kind of like that, where it's so different that no other skill can eke into it, and you do kind of learn just sumo. Judo, obviously, but I hadn't done enough for that to be a factor.
Fair enough. Yeah. Even though there are differences. What about you, JJ? Did you find that like you were watching matches differently once you're even when you were just doing Shiko and stuff by yourself? Like, did that help? And then did that change again once you went to your first tournament down in Texas?
Definitely. Yeah. 100%. Once I started actually practicing, I started to notice a lot of the smaller things that you might not otherwise unless you're a mega fan. Like especially just starting with like the Shiko and the Suriashi, I noticed footwork a lot more, like a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly I know my own footwork isn't the best, but knowing that that's an aspect that I have to focus on as an like amateur wrestler myself really helps me pick up on in a match who is in a better or worse position based on how they're standing.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
just like a small example of like a lot of small things that you pick up just as you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because there really is no teacher like example.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for sparring.
And why? Because like again, like a sumo match is over. Like I have no statistics on this, but like surely the average sumo match is over in less than 30 seconds, but maybe less than 15 seconds.
4 seconds, I believe it is. Average match.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Because we're not always just talking about a makuuchi fight, right? Like this is the whole scope of sumo. Like, so I got to imagine that for you guys, the sparring is what helps you be able to see like, whoops, his right foot, his right heel, this is over, like something like that.
Well, as with anything, like you can train the technique and you can do the exercise as much as you want, but you do have to apply them at some point. And sparring is the application,
right?
And that like refine and like your technique is always worse in sparring. It always looks shit.
Yeah,
you're always moving worse than you would be in practice. But the reason you practice so much is to try and transfer as much of that proper technique into the sparring.
And into muscle memory, right? Like, it's no different. Like,
yeah.
I used to play soccer or whatever, and, like, I played fullback. So, the idea, like, yeah, it's really easy to cross when no one's there. But I need to build that muscle memory of throwing a cross in so that when I have a guy bearing down on me and another guy, like, kicking my heels, like, I can still deliver.
Yeah, and where that translates to watching the sport, which is why I encourage people to do sumo, because it will really make you appreciate it, is like you'll see people like just fall forward in pro matches, and they've been doing this for like 20 years, and like there's a bit of a shimmy, and you just watch a guy fall forward and eat dirt. And it's like your whole job is to stand up. How can that happen? And then you're in a match, and then you're putting your entire chest trying to drive forward, put as much strength as you can to walk forward, and they just shift slightly, and suddenly the door just got opened on you, and you eat dirt. It's like, oh, that happens very easily.
Yeah, right, because that 45-degree angle is actually so important, right? Like, yeah. But the problem is you also need another 45-degree angle in your face.
Well, the other side of that is if you kind of know someone's going to step that way, if you can like wait for it and then catch yourself and drive with them, that's another huge one. So there's layers on top of that. The other big thing I noticed after doing it is people with an outside grip, but they don't have the belt. When they try and shift their arms back inside, they've taken all the pressure off that entire side of the body. They've completely disengaged. It may as well just be dead weight as they try to slip their arm inside because there's no forward pressure. Yeah. And you'll see matches like that where they're both locked up. Someone tries to change grip and then just Yorikiri pushed out.
Oh, even I was thinking you were going to say like Uwate Nage because they're off balance, but they could at that point you just overpower them because they've got no balance.
Yeah, if you both have equal force pushing into each other, and then one person completely disengages half of their body, it's just easy Yorikiri. If they feel it happening and drive as it happens. Yeah. Because the other side of that is, like, you'll shift when they're not expecting it, and they didn't push in time.
Right.
But you'll start to see pro matches where it's like, they try to get an inside grip, they try to slip inside, and then they're just gone and lose.
Yeah. Right.
It happens in a second. Those are the two big ones that I noticed. And then I start seeing things, and then I start practicing things that I've seen live, and I keep going and going and cycling through that, and it just grows your appreciation and understanding of the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And then what about even like, because beyond that, the thing I've always heard in commentary, but as someone who like I'll watch down to Makushita when I can, but the idea being like they always talk about like Oshi Sumo is really what almost everyone does. We get a skewed version of sumo when we're watching Makuuchi, but it's not usually until like Juryo at the minimum that even like most oyakata will let their guys start learning other techniques, is what I've heard. So what I'm curious from you guys is, do you notice that is it better to kind of do the clinical like, hey, vertical sumo guys, like we're going forward, and if you're going backwards, it's because you're trying to like fix your grip or something?
Amateur sumo is interesting in that, unlike professional sumo, there are absolutely weight classes. There are open weight divisions for sure, but there are certainly weight classes, and because of that, if you watch an amateur tournament, and I wholeheartedly recommend you catch any live streamed one that you can. Lightweight divisions look very, very different than the ones that they do in heavyweight. And that's my experience as a heavyweight wrestler myself. I'm 6'5". I weigh like nearly 300 pounds. And I have a guy that I practice with that is around my size, and another guy that I practice with that is around my weight but a foot shorter than me.
Wow. Yeah.
Vastly different ways to wrestle those guys.
Yeah.
Very, very different. So yeah, roundabout way of getting back to the question about Oshi Sumo versus straight up vertical stuff. In amateur sumo, style makes the fight is true pretty much anywhere, but in amateur sumo, your body will, at least at first, kind of dictate how you're fighting. In my experience, anyway.
Yeah. So someone give it to me, Oyakata, give it to me, Sensei, is like someone who's all of 5'7" and 150 pounds asking for a friend. What's his sumo gonna look like?
How does Sakashi?
Is fair? Yeah.
Take the hit, don't lose off the Tachi-ai, and then just try to spin around the side of him and pull him down.
Right. Let them generate all the momentum, all the force, and then
So you know how you were talking about that you watch everyone do Oshi in lower divisions, everyone has to drive and try and work those fundamentals? Nah.
Don't.
Nah, you're going backwards.
Yeah, like, go ahead and try, little guy. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. It's, you're very, like, I still fall for it a lot. I get locked up in the gorilla mindset of just Yorikiri forever.
Yeah.
But sideways movement is very important in amateur sumo.
What about you, JJ? Do you have a difference in like approach when you're fighting little guys, or do you find that you like kind of like you guys were hinting at, your body dictates what you're gonna do? So then it's just about, I guess, the reps and the mental game, knowing how to cope with that in the amateur ranks, like.
I'm lucky in that I'm big, so I can really only have two strategies, right? I can have a strategy for people that are smaller than me, and I can have a strategy for people that are about the same size as me.
Huh. All right. Yeah, no one's really going to be bigger than you. I mean, if you find one, holy smokes.
Yeah. And I mean, like, Hayden Southall is, I think he's got like 110, 120 pounds on
6'4", 380.
Yeah. Okay, 380. Okay, so yeah, he's about 100 pounds heavier than me. That makes a huge difference, believe me.
Yeah. Right, there's a reason guys put the weight on. Like, it's it's intentional.
Yeah. But that's not really gonna change the way that I'm meeting him in a Tachi-ai. Just because, I'm gonna naturally be a lot higher than a lot of other guys just because I'm tall. For smaller guys, my go-to is to lead with like the shoulder and try and get this area on them.
Yeah, your biceps squared up.
Belt.
Yeah.
And then go for a belt grip, because if they're smaller than me, I got to get better at it.
You're gonna Tochinoshino.
Yeah.
Oh, do you prefer the Tochinoshin strongman lift out or the Teranofuji? I'm gonna break your elbows.
I've tried to do the elbow lock once, and you can see it in my Roller Town. You can see it in one of my Roller Town matches. It didn't work for me. I'm not strong enough for it. I need to focus on fundamentals, and especially the guy that I train with, he does strongman himself. So like I can't do big man sumo against this guy. I got to try to train my technique against him, which is good. So another amateur wrestler, Neil, he was on Sumo Punks a while back. He was the Junyu Show runner-up.
No, yeah, we had him on. The guy who went 10-5 Roller Town?
Yeah.
Noah.
14-1. Noah. 14-1. Roller Town.
The Sunflower Samurai.
Yeah. He recommends if you're a big guy, you do big man sumo, but you also practice small guy sumo because you're not always going to be the biggest guy.
Yeah.
And that's something that I need to work on. But no, just Goose.
And
Goose
I only ever try to do big guy sumo, even when I'm the little guy.
Right. It's interesting, though, because I would have expected, like, if you're going to describe sumo as a chess match, which is a really pained allegory, but, like, because it happens so fast, right? As opposed to watching Magnus Carlsen, like, think about a move for 3 days. You would expect the tactical side to be firing off in the little guy's brain, but interestingly, when a guy... Like, the big guys are actually the ones who have to think about it like, hey, is he going to try and henka me here? Like, what do I have to do if he does?
Not even just henka.
Yeah.
This is a fun one that I like to show off because like I said, I'm a big guy. And I fought against Ben, who is a 14-year-old kid in Roller Town, and he went for a leg pick.
Yeah.
And Ben is an absolutely incredible wrestler, taking down like huge people. Not only as the big guy do you have to worry about things that they're going to do off the tachi. Small guys tend to be the ones that have to set the rhythm of a match, otherwise they lose.
Okay. Yeah.
And they need to put the big guy on the back foot as quickly as possible, which means as a big guy, if you're unable to have backup plans and contingencies to work with, and you really only do Oshi or Yorikiri, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Just quietly. Flying all the way out to America to watch your 6'5" homie get beaten by an actual child.
By a minor.
Worth the price of admission.
Yeah, 100%. It was incredible.
100%.
It was incredible because he had me by the leg. I got my leg down. I have him by the back of the belt, and I just go
Get rid of
that. Get rid of this kid. And he clings onto me like a spider, and he pivots. He spins me out instead somehow. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Oh man. Okay, so that's fast. And then beyond that, like, this is the last thing. I mean, pivoting a little bit more into the professional ranks. So like a guy who traditionally would, I mean, he's not small, but like Hoshoryu, right? A guy who once he got to Sekiwake Ozeki started putting on the weight massively, but a guy who traditionally has used a lot of throws. And when we had a few episodes ago, my buddy Phil on, who's a PT and works on helping people recover from knee injuries and stuff like that, and also a sumo fan, but he talked a lot about, he's like, oh man, that torquing, pivoting movement, like if you have a lot of weight on you, never do that. He's like, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Do you think, so for those little guys and dictating the match, maybe this doesn't happen in amateur sumo, but both of you guys having been in the dojo in competitive environments, like what, does that do anything to a guy? Have either of you been in a situation where you have tried to put on weight for sumo? I mean, probably not, right? Because this isn't like your livelihood. But what does that do to someone's technique or career? This idea of like starting one way and then trying to put on that weight, does that make them have to dictate like they did before, rather than be more reactive, more proactive?
Absolutely no idea. I dropped about 8 kilos to make middleweight for the Oceanic Championship.
You're like, I'm just throwing darts at boards, man.
I got no idea what I'm talking about, but I do have a basic understanding of physics.
Right.
And as someone who picks up heavy things off the ground,
yes, professional.
chuck an extra 10 kilos onto it, and I'm not translating that.
No, don't do it.
Suddenly I can't do it.
Yeah.
And 10 kilos isn't that much in the scale of things, but yeah.
Huh. No, yeah, that is
So
interesting.
mathematically, it makes sense. Off the tachi, it makes sense. The more weight you can put behind you, the better. Obviously, it gets to a point where it's slowing you down mobility-wise. Two wrestlers who I find very interesting to compare is Taka Keisho
Yes.
and some other guy whose name escapes me. Who's the little guy? Not Terusa Yoshi and not Enho. We love him. Midori Fuji.
Oh, Midori
I
Fuji,
do this
yeah.
professionally. Midori Fuji and Taka Keisho were the same height and took their skills in the exact opposite directions.
I know. And
Midori Fuji is all muscle with a bit of flab on him. Taka Keisho became a human boulder.
he's the beautiful baby boy boulder.
Sure.
It's-
And those two guys have the most vastly different styles in sumo.
Right.
Just nothing but powerhouse Oshi versus dancing around the ring trying to get any kind of weird hold he can throw on someone.
That's a great point. That's fascinating. Yeah. How, like, we don't know.
Wait, I don't know. I can't speak for myself, but off pure mathematics, it helps. There's this one guy who's pretty good at sumo called Hakuho,
Yes.
and he usually tells people put on the weight.
Mhm.
So I assume it's good.
Yeah.
I can't say for myself, but just off numbers and what I've seen, it feels like a good idea.
Fair enough. No, but it actually, that example you gave was great where, like, you're talking about at work, like, picking up an extra 10 kilos shouldn't be a lot. And I agree with you. Americans learn the metric system. Just deal with it. But, like, it doesn't seem like it should be a big deal. And then immediately you're like, why do my forearms hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Huh.
It's how do I compare it? JJ.
Well, I mean, I can only really talk from the perspective of a guy who is locked into heavyweight.
Oh, because of your height and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's pretty much nothing that I could, like, I will always be above 260 pounds.
Your BMI would be in a very unhealthy range if you tried to shed below that.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, like, me trying to drop like 20 or 30 pounds to go below the next weight division is like, it would be an unhealthy thing for me to do if I were just to try to drop that weight without whatever. Like, that's out of the cards for me. What I can speak to is that my training partner, Timmy, he, like I said, he's a strong man. He's 6'2", I think. 310, 315. He wants to bulk up to 335, which is insane because this guy is already dense.
Yeah. Just eating a cow a week, is that the game plan?
Unironically, he said he drinks 4 liters of milk a day. Which
Holy
is
dooly.
it's crazy.
That's what?
When I was trying to get strong, I was drinking 1 liter.
Yeah.
What?
No, like insane. This guy he does strongman competitions and stuff. Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's built different.
Yeah.
So, like, all I can speak to is a guy who trains with the guy who's trying to gain to a certain weight.
So that guy's an absolute outlier for the point that I wanted to bring up. Was I was talking about pro sumo, but for amateur sumo,
Yeah.
like I do it by karate and Muay Thai as well. I'm doing amateur sumo kind of on the side. I don't want to put on 45 more pounds
Yeah.
of fat. It will help my sumo, but it's not going to help me. So
No,
I'm gonna
yeah.
lose that.
Again,
Yeah, and
we talked about the knee joints and stuff. Like, it's not great to do.
and there's no, and like the elephant in the room is that there's no real financial structure for it.
Right.
If amateur sumo was like a career path that one could conceivably actually follow,
Right.
I'm sure that people would be doing that to themselves.
Yeah. Which we actually probably don't even want, because the number of people, I'm sure it's the same way in Japan, the number of people who are actually making a living from it, like, make no mistake, Sekitori is only Juryo and Makuuchi. There are a ton of guys fighting out there who are not salaried wrestlers. Like, we can make fun of Shodai and Mitakeyumi for, like, laughing their way all the way to the bank, but on some level, like,
And we do.
we do, yeah. But on some level, more power to them, because they're like, I don't know, I figured it out. I broke the toy, so I'm just gonna play with it.
I mean, whenever
You know who's really got it figured out? Everyone's like, oh, Tamawashi, it's so cool, it's so impressive, he was able to do that. No, he's got 7 Kinboshi. He picks up 15,000 yen every day he shows up. That man is a scam. That man is a walking scam.
Yeah.
That guy is making bank for as long as he can.
Oh yeah. He's
Um,
When will he retire? He will die in that ring before he retires.
the first ever octogenarian Rikishi. Sorry, I interrupted JJ.
no, I
do it all the time, don't worry.
It's gone now. I'm just thinking about an 80-year-old Tamawashi smacking newbies.
Yeah, but like an 80-year-old
7-8
Tamawashi,
Juryo.
he could still hang in Juryo, right? Like,
Right. No, that's what I was
Yeah.
like. Yeah, we make fun of Shodai and Mitaki Umi, but they're still in top division, which means that they are the best 42 guys in sumo on the planet.
yes. Nick and I try to talk about that all the time, where we're like, okay, like sometimes we'll hop on Sumo Reddit and they're like ragging on guys, and I'm like, you know that like he is so much better at the thing he does than anything you'll ever do in your life.
Yeah. Like the way
Invalid.
that I
Not a real point. They goddamn better be better than me.
Okay, fair. Okay, fair.
But on the stage, he went 312.
Yeah. Yep. I like to say, like, I had that presentation. I was like, I'm confident in saying that I would lose in 5th division. And that's pretty much it. Like,
I would go a healthy 3-4 in 4th division, I believe.
Okay, this is our new plan. GoFundMe, Kickstarter, whatever we got to do. Get Goose to Makushita. We're doing this.
I'm too old, baby.
Fair.
For pro sumo, if you're older than 25, I will absolutely stay out the front of the Hayes Lotus peeking through the window. Can I come in? I go wakarimasu. Can I come in, please?
Knocking on the glass as they train, and like your hot breath and drawing a little heart. Like, please, me?
Uda comes in with a broom. Get here.
Go and get no. Uda would come in and look like, yeah, I could get with this guy. Let's go.
Uro would make me pancakes. You can never predict that guy.
I love that man. There is no one I would rather be friends with in the world. How do I make that happen? Okay.
You gotta speak Japanese first.
Okay, yeah. Demo, watashi wa wakarimasu. Uda-san, Uda senpai. Aishite.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I'm clearly falling apart and derailing what was a very healthy conversation, but so like the benefits, I just wanted to like put a spotlight on this, and I'm really glad you guys brought up what you did about search for sumo. Be, as Goose would say, just like Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to be in the world. If you wish for a sumo club, be the sumo club. Even if like
the first and only time I've been compared to Gandhi.
Yeah, well, it's get ready for more. This idea that like you can just I'm serious, like I don't know, I'm gonna try to get some buddies here and we might see if we drive out to Georgetown and go meet those guys just from this conversation, if only so that I can understand what it feels like to be pancaked by a 300-pound man. Don't take that out of context.
Too bad.
Too late.
Yeah, that's the main thing I want to get across. Go out and do sumo wrestling.
Yeah.
If you're in America, it's easy. The US Sumo org is the best place to go. They have a calendar of upcoming events.
Right.
If you're not in America, it's harder, but it is possible. JJ created his sumo club.
Yeah.
You can do it too.
I wanted to say, Canada. I just take a moment to talk about the beautiful Great White North. There is going.
There's a point
to,
in this somewhere, and you're gonna find it, JJ.
It would have.
He said Canada and just got lost in love.
If you would stop.
In his head is nothing but like, oh Canada.
I gotta get through the song. Sorry, it's still the French stuff.
JJ, big breath in. Let's try it again.
The Canadian Sumo Federation is a new thing. It's coming up. It's called. It's not the Sumo Federation. It's called Canada Sumo. They have a list of active clubs on their website, and they are working to get more clubs going. They are a support structure that if you are interested in getting in contact with them, go ahead and go onto their website, Sumo Canada. They will get you in contact with the people that are in your city, if there are any. And if not, then you get in contact with them and you start your club, and they will help you out in any way that they can. Hopefully by 2025, there's going to be a Canadian Nationals.
Yeah.
So if anybody's listening to this now, start training.
Yeah. Or, like Goose mentioned before, both you guys mentioned, like this idea that like even if you're international and it's harder, like you have places you can come to Roller Town, like this Mecca. You could go to the US Open, which is an open tournament.
There's a federation website.
Yeah.
International Sumo Federation. They have all the international tournaments that go on throughout the year. USSumo.org, which is likely where you are if you're listening to this. They have a calendar of all the upcoming events. We have something. I've lost it. Olympia Sumo coming up in October. That's going to be a big one. I think that's an invite-only one, though, but that's going to be streamed. That's going to be a big deal. We have Sumo World Championships in Poland coming up in September the 7th. That is going to be all the winners of the yearly Nationals tournament that I didn't make, so you won't see me there, but you will see Tony, who's this giant Australian judo expert that we have that's kind of cleaned house recently. He's going to be good fun.
Was that your mountain man that you dug out that you were referring to earlier?
No, he had a knee injury recently. Tony's only come up in sumo this year.
Yeah.
He didn't get to compete.
Yeah.
Is there a cat in here? What the hell? Forgive me. Go on.
You're good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
it's not even my cat. That's why it's a problem.
things are off the rails, guys. We're falling apart. Yeah. So, Goose and JJ, thank you so much. We got to have you back for as much as you will allow my rudeness of keeping you here way too long. But it's because this stuff is fascinating and it's so exciting because like this is approachable. Like you can do this. It's one thing to watch a sport. And another thing to do it. Like, that's why I think it was so perfect that Goose even brought up this, like, hey, this Australian national obsession with sport, right? Like, in America, at least, it's so, like, consumer-oriented, and I mean even, like, consuming media, like, just watching sumo, hey, that's a cool thing, and that can identify my personality, but it would be so much better if it can identify you because it's something you do. And then, these kind of connections you can make. Again, I'm fascinated. This guy, a Canadian and Australian, meet up in Texas and go to a Rangers game with Gagamaru. Like, what is this?
Yeah. No, it's great. That's the point I want to make.
Yeah.
If you like sumo, go do sumo. Yeah. There is sumo in your area. And if there's not, you can be the sumo in your area.
Not only is he the Gandhi of our generation and our sport, but he's the Sun Tzu as well. In Goose we trust. Thanks for listening, everybody. And
subscribe to Sunday Morning Sumo Show on YouTube.
Follow Sunday Morning Sumo Show. Join their Discord. Get real expert knowledge.
Stop saying that.
I'm
on the list.
You're like, we can't support this promise.
Oh, I got a 7-8. That's my only tournament score.
No,
if
that's
you
better.
want above average knallage on sumo, you know where to go.
Get room temperature toast and sumo knowledge. Off we go. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for joining me, JJ and Goose. Subscribe to Sunday Morning Sumo Show. Check out the Dallas Sumo Club and start a sumo club. That's where we're going to end it. Thanks, everybody.